Yeah. So, do you know Honnappa? He's a team leader in the ARM DPDK team. And my mic is working? And he's going to talk about a survey which was done this year. It was an online survey about the community feedback about the process, basically. So he will give some conclusion now.
Thank you, Thomas. My name is Honnappa. I work at ARM. I volunteer to conduct this survey. I have Maxime with me. He helped me review all the reports that we produced out of this survey. So we have 15 minutes. I'll get started quickly. Okay. So how did we come to conduct this survey? There was a question in 2018 North America Summit about trying to use the modern tools like GitHub and Gerrit to scale the development process or to make a better job out of it. So immediately after that, the tech board started the discussion, and it was concluded that we will conduct a survey in two parts. The first part was to understand what are the current pain points, whether we need to improve something or not. And then the second part was contingent on the outcome of the first survey, and it was supposed to go get some feedback about the new tools. Okay, so along with me, there were a lot of volunteers who helped deliberate the questions. Thank you to all of them. First of all, how was the response for the survey? So the first survey was sent out on 23rd February with a deadline of 13th March. That's roughly 2 weeks. And at the first week, I got 27 responses. I sent out a reminder saying, hey, we are left with 1 week. And at the end of deadline, we got 41 responses. So on that day in the tech board, we decided that, hey, 41 is not enough. And we decided to extend the deadline. And the extended deadline was 23rd March, roughly another 2 weeks. And then we also decided that, we need to advertise a little bit about the survey. So we figured out, all our engineers are hanging out on mailing lists. So we sent out email on VPP and SPDK mailing lists, asking them for providing feedback if they worked with DPDK ever. And then we decided that was not enough, and we went to Twitter. I think, if we look at the results, we got 59 responses, and it tells me that we need a Facebook page. So, and then, Thomas got to work, and he said, okay, how many contributors we have? Right, I think it's more than 119, but we took this condition that they should have at least contributed 10 patches since 1802. And we came up with a number of 119. So 92 or 77% of them did not respond to our survey. So I don't want to conclude anything here based on this number, but you can draw your conclusion. So not a great response to a survey is what I would say. So now getting on to the survey results, I'm trying to cover only the key questions which will let us conclude what we want to do going forward. So the first question was, is it easy to send patches? So 20% said not easy, and rest of the 80% said it is very easy. So out of the 20%, 58% said the process is too cumbersome. This is out of that 20% who said no. And then somebody said it is nerve-wracking. Well, yeah, I hope we are not bullying people on the mailing list, but I remember that feeling the first time when I sent a patch to the mailing list. I really had to go through a couple of days of making sure everything is going on okay. So I think, what that tells me is we need a kind of environment where people can validate their patch before they put it on the mailing list. And I feel, based on today's talks, that part is coming along pretty well, is what I think. But yeah. So now the next question we had was email-based review. Is it helpful? So again, 27% said no, it's not very helpful. And 73% said yes, we are satisfied with the current email-based review. So out of that 27%, 22% said the responses are very slow. I think that was kind of reflected in the previous presentation as well. That's something that we should try and see if we can address. 34% said comments lost or not addressed. I also had a very personal experience on this matter. I had to kind of repeat my comment 3 times over a period, over 3 versions of the patch. So maybe that's the effect of email-based review. Too many emails, I don't know, and I don't know how to fix that either. So that's something that everybody needs to pay attention to. And 44% out of the 27% said, it's difficult to manage a large list of emails. So the third question was, is patchwork helpful? Again, 20% said no, 80% said yes. Some of the prominent feedback I got out of that 20% is they can't link revisions. So I believe, if you click on V4, you can't go back and look at, the previous versions of the patch. And people complain that there's no way to get notified of the patches I'm responsible. Suppose say I'm a maintainer and I want to pay attention to only my patches. There's no way to get notified about it. And it is hard to manage the patch sets that have dependency in the patchwork. I don't know if there are any solutions for this. Maxime, do you have any experience on this? Okay.
For example, Patchu, I don't know if it offers that possibility. Now about the maintainer not being notified. So today we have to manually delegate series to the maintainer.
Okay.
So maybe it could be scriptable and do that automatically. And yes, we don't have notification, but if you have you can have the list easily of the patch you have under your
So
maintainership.
You need to log into the patchwork
Yeah,
and
yeah.
look for the. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah. So what do we do about the patch set dependencies? Is there any way to solve that? Like let's say I have a patch which is dependent on another patch. Today I need to go into patchwork, look at the patch, and look at the cover letter to say, hey.
So as Aaron suggested in his talk, we could have some metadata like a tag depends on the patchwork link to, and maybe patchwork could parse the cover letter or the Git annotation and find this reference and.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that would be good.
That's something that could be possible. I don't know if upstream patchwork provides that today, and if the patchwork maintainers are willing to extend it. That's an open question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think some of these comments are, even though they came out of this survey, they are kind of something that we can improve upon. So now there were other questions. which I didn't find them to be affecting the decision for the process. Do you find coding guidelines easy to follow? 90% said yes. I think that's a good thing. 10% have indicated few issues, and I think that's something that we can fix fairly easily. Ease of using scripts in the dev tools, again, majority of them said it's easy. 22% said it's not easy, and most of them point to the difficulty in setting up the check patch script. Mainly, they have to download the Linux kernel, they have to keep it updated and things like that. And people seem to be not so familiar with that.
And different kernel version will provide different check patch version. And sometimes the result is not the same depending on the check patch version.
Yes, yeah. And I think there's also issues with, they have a particular version with them, but in the upstream CI, maybe it's a different version. So do you get enough reviews on the patches? 61% said yes, but 39% I think is a fairly big number who says no. So I think that's something that we need to address, is what I feel. Then is the rate of response enough? 51% said no. So I think we have got things to fix around the review, is what I would say. Here, there were some suggestions that were talked about in the tech board meeting, wherein maintainers can delegate a little bit more to somebody that they can trust more in the community, or someone who has worked more in their part of the code.
Actually, everyone is more than welcome to review patches. You don't have to be maintainer to review patches.
Yes, that's a good point. So. Yes, from that point of view, I think it's for the entire community to fix the review issue here.
And as a good practice, if you want your patch to be reviewed, you have better to review some patches.
Yes, I think that's a mutual understanding that everyone has to have. Okay, conclusion. The current process will not change. We are going to go with what we have today. I see Thomas getting to the microphone. Do you have something to say here?
No comment about the things that nothing will change in the short term, but something to know that very recently, in the last month, there were some very hot discussion in the Linux kernel. Micro. Yeah. In the Linux kernel community. It doesn't work? Okay, that's fine. So if you are interested, yeah, it works. So if you are interested in tooling of the workflows, now the discussion of the kernel community are continuing on the dedicated new mailing list. It was created maybe a few weeks ago. It is called Workflows. On the Voyager server of kernel.org. I have good hope that they are using the same workflow as us. DPDK is adopting basically the same workflow as Linux kernel. So probably if there is enough traction from this kernel community with DPDK and other projects, maybe we will have enough resources to improve our tools or to create new tools which really fit our needs. So there is to take a Star Wars title, there is a new hope.
Okay. So is that something on the lines of combining email-based reviews with these tools?
I just started to look at it, and for instance, they are looking at connecting patch set together revisions. Okay. So they are looking at Patchwork, etc. They are also looking at GitHub. They are now discussing with, Microsoft is owning GitHub, so they are discussing with Microsoft resources to get more effort to suit this kind of workflow. So probably we will have some good tools. But the right discussion is, do we want to work on several tools? Or do we choose one tool for the whole community and work on this one?
So one of the questions I had about your data, I'm over here, is that, you got 119 responses or 57 responses or something like that, and there's 119 over
active
10 patches users. those are the kind of the superstar guys that are submitting patches like every other week or every month or something like that, right? So they're very familiar with the process.
Yeah.
So to them, there's no hurdle for them. They can do it all day long because they're doing it all the time. But if we want more authors that submit in a non-frequent times, we need to make it easier for them to be able to put those patches in and get them submitted. Today, you know, if you ever do it every couple of months, you forget exactly how a patch is done, and you have to go back through the entire process again to get done and submit a patch. So if we can make that barrier lower, we can get more authors as well, and some of those might be very good responses. But today they look at the process and goes, "Oh, it's difficult. The last time I did it, I spent weeks trying to get this thing done." So if we can figure out a way to get it less of an onus for these people, we'll get more submissions. If you only ever want 119 committers that doing superstar patches, you know, all the time, then that's fine. But I don't think that's what we want. We want more people to contribute on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? And a fair point. And I think, I'm not sure if I have captured it in the following slides. There was a comment which said that, hey, this process is cumbersome for infrequent contributors. I think that's a fair comment. And you know, if we want to look at, hey, can we attract new developers to the community? Yes, we got to make that. If that's the comment we are getting from them, we got to make that easier. So hopefully I have captured in the following slides here. So, you know, that was the outcome of the survey, but there were some good suggestions that came out of this whole survey. I have tried to capture some of them, but there is a report that I generated which captures all the comments that I got. So there were a total of 26 unstructured comments, as in we had a section at the end which said, hey, do you have any comments for DPDK development process? And these were some of the things that came out. So I made Maxime and I made a list of these feedback and took it to the tech board. And you know, some of them were implemented, like the LXR stuff, and some of them are still being discussed. So some of the comments are, you know, we need to advertise the subtrees better. It looks like they are not available anywhere on dpdk.org site, at least when it was conducted. We need to fix that. You know, the other interesting thing was process for integrating patches when maintainers don't respond. I think it, again, comes down to reviews. So we have had a little bit of discussion in the tech board. The feeling is, you know, the patches have to be owned by the submitter and the maintainer. And the submitter has to push people to get it reviewed, is what I hear. But I don't think we have concluded on that part yet. Again, not enough responses. Maybe maintainers could delegate if they are busy, if they are not able to get to the patches. But as Maxime says, you know, it's not only the maintainer's job. It's everybody's job to review. Yeah, on that point, I would say that, yes, it's for the entire community to come together to review the patches. Okay, yeah, that's it from the survey. Any questions, comments?
Hey, just another comment on patchwork. I think Maxime also mentioned Patchu. Patchu is a similar project, can do a little bit more, but it also can link revisions, and it can also show a diff between version 1 and version 2, which I think is very convenient. If we want to look into that, I'm willing to help. Just
Great,
okay.
Thank you. Okay, good. I think no more questions. Thank you.